Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. The Breeders' Academy proudly presents Bred to Perfection with Kenny Troiano, a show for serious breeders.
Whether you are looking to create a new strain or simply improve an old one, you have come to the right place.
Daddy, I want more chickens.
Oh, boy.
Now, here's your host, Kenny Troiano.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bred to Perfection. My name is Kenny Troiano, and this, my friends, is the podcast devoted to helping you become a better breeder and taking your strain to the next level. That's right, my friends. It doesn't matter if you are brand new to breeding or you've been breeding for many years. There is something all of us can do to improve our fowl for future generations. I do have a question about the recessive white. So we look at a dominant white, we breed it to a red, we get a red pile. Now, if you breed a recessive white to a red, what do you get?
A red? Who knows? Depends on what's under the recessive white. But you don't get white.
What about a red splash?
Oh, absolutely.
They look just like a blue splash, except they're red where the blue was.
What breed is it in?
American game.
Okay, that's interesting. Do they feather out like that from the first, or do they grow into that?
No, right from the beginning. They almost look spangled when they first start, but as they grow and develop, then they basically look splash.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're describing. That's progressive whitening.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Kill it. Burn it with fire. Kill them all.
So that's not splash, that's progressive white. Okay, that's good to know.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the devil. Kill it. Avoid like the plague.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders' Academy, and I'm here with my wife, Nancy. What's up?
Founder of the Breeders' Academy.
Yeah, my mind was thinking Bred to Perfection, Breeders' Academy. I didn't know which one I wanted to say. I got it right.
Oh, you're too funny. So how is everybody doing tonight?
Happy New Year.
Yeah, we have made it through 2024. God be gone. Yep. Now we're into 2025, where we're going to have a fabulous year filled with lots of great offspring, right?
Yep. We're going to be covering a lot of great topics. I have a lot planned for the show and the website. We'll be doing another website tour, maybe even next week. It's time to update that thing. And there's going to be more interviews with Brian Reeder. And I just did one, matter of fact. I did a 10-hour recording with Brian, nonstop. We started at 5 p.m., and we didn't finish until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but guess what night he did it?
What's that?
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve, yep. I got to listen to all the fireworks and all the gunshots and all the sounds coming through my window right here as we were doing it. But we covered a lot of great topics. These are going to be great episodes. I can't wait to get them out.
Wow. In the chat, before you move on to your next announcement, in the chat, they're talking about how cold it is and how cold it is getting. I wanted to ask somebody really quick here. Roxanne says that she's fixing to get ready for the cold weather, and she's got to get her girls fixed up. I was wondering, because you and I, we live out here in Paradise. What do people do to get their chickens ready for the cold weather, other than make sure there's no drafts? So let us know, Roxanne, what you're doing to get your girls fixed up.
Yeah, matter of fact, when I was talking to Brian Reeder, we were getting ready to do the show, and he was all bundled up and everything. And he said they were planning, they were going to see a lot of cold when he's in Kentucky. But the first show we did with him, I did a phone call with him just to get to know him. and we spent 5 hours on the phone. We ended up we took about half of that conversation and turned it into multiple episodes. And the material wasn't too bad. The information was great, but being on a phone was a little rough to hear. And then soon after that, we did another recording, which was 8 hours long. We did 4 separate episodes with that. And again, it was with this phone. And I did what I could to clean it up with the computer and through editing. But the one we did the other day on New Year's Day, it's going to sound so much better. I sent him a microphone, and it's a lot better quality. And I actually got him on the screen, so you're going to be able to watch him. And I just, for my members, just know that I put 2 more Masters Class videos on there, and they're with Brian Reeder. What was the first one? Oh, I don't remember the name of it. Oh, shoot. But it was episode 2 of the one I did with him. I'm trying to think. And then we did a Q&A on New Year's Eve. After all the shows we did, after all the episodes that we covered, we did a Q&A, and we covered the questions with my members. And so I put that together real quick, and that's on there for you. So if you had asked a question, Brian pretty much answered all the questions that I had at the time. So if you ask a question, make sure you go on there and see what he says. And then the Q&A I did with him earlier, that's going to be done soon, and that'll be on there as well. So I talked to Brian. Like I said, we did the show. I was talking to him about the gene chopping program that we had created for our members. And I sent it to him, and he looked it over, and he said he loved it. He says it's exactly what he was doing when he was doing a lot of his research with the experiments he was doing, what have you. I was really excited. Now, the program's basically on the website through the video. I'm going to improve the written part of it and the pictures that go with it. And then maybe Frank and I down the road will actually redo the video if I think I need to. But the program's really good. I sent it to a number of members. I sent it to Frank. They all liked it. It looked good. The science looked good. I sent it to Brian. He said it looked good, so I'm really excited. I told him too, I go, if it looks crazy, tell me. Because right now it looks good. The science looks good. It looks good on paper. I'm liking what I'm seeing. It looks like it works. And Brian said that's exactly what he was doing. And this is what I did when I was creating the black pearls. I didn't really know that was what I was doing, but the way it's set up on the program, it's pretty much what I was doing when I create the black pearls.
Where are you at?
I'm right here. You see me? No, do you see it on the outline?
No, I don't see your little cursor thingy.
Go down.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Materials in his second book. Okay, yeah. Oh, he said he noticed an uptick in sales in his book. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
We really appreciate that. It's a great book. You're all going to want to get it if you don't already have it.
Yeah.
Do you have that picture, the book handy so you can show them what it looks like?
Let me see. Can you see it in the bottom left?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And if you click on the QR code in the top right, that'll take you to his website. But you can order his book on Amazon. And especially for the members who are actually able to see these videos and see these programs, I suggest that you get the books because you can follow along. A lot of the material we did that we recorded was based on his books, the information in his books. The 3 base alleles we did, that video, that's all based on his light blue book, that book there. And the one of the things we did on New Year's Eve was we covered the material in his second book. And it's a lot about form and function traits, polygenic traits, and quantitative inheritance. And yeah, like Nancy said, he had mentioned that he noticed a good uptick of cells, which is really good. He said, I'm not going to get rich, but it was noticeable. So I really appreciate that. So I suggest everybody who's interested in breeding and improving color. And like I said, the second book is on form and function. So if you want to improve the form and structure of your birds, make sure you get the blue book. Before we get started, I want to talk about some of the things that we covered. We covered a term, or it's a genetic factor called autosomal pheomelanin. And he covered it pretty good in the other videos we did. And he covered it multiple times because it's a major factor. But we did a whole episode on autosomal pheomelanin. And as my members know, it's a really important factor when it comes to trying to improve the color of your birds, because if you don't understand it, you could be selecting the wrong birds and just never get there. And this is even more true when you're trying to improve silver ducklings. When you see the red in the wing bow, or you're seeing any kind of red leakage, and you can't figure out why you can't get rid of it. Understanding the factors of autosomal pheomelanin will get you there. Okay. We did a whole hour on that, which was really good, because he goes, where do you want me to start? Where did we leave off last time? What did we cover? Where do we start from here? I said, hey, just act like they've never heard this stuff before, and let's just start from the beginning and work our way to the end. And we probably covered, I would say, hour 15 minutes, hour and 30, just on autosomal pheomelanin. And then this is a really important one, because Brian wanted to cover other things. The first 4 episodes we did when we got together was all color, okay? And he's an expert when it comes to color. I've never seen anybody cover color the way he does, okay? But he likes to talk about other things too. He's like, I love color. I love what we can do with color, but I want to cover other things. Sometimes I just get sick of color, okay? And I said, I totally get it. I understand. So, and that's what we did. We covered some other things too. But I wanted him, before he did that, to really explain autosomal pheomelanin and whites, okay? Because what you have is dominant white, recessive white, and a lot of people know about that, but he explained in a way that I think is going to really open your eyes. But the big eye-opener was the progressive white. And that's what you saw from the opening, what we call the quick short. And that was one of the things he said when we first talked to him. Was it, Nancy, wasn't that like the 8-hour talk we did? I think that's where it came from.
I think so.
Yeah.
We had 4 or 5 segments done in that one.
Yeah. And I've known a lot about genetics. I know a lot about the basics of genetics. When it comes to gamefowl, I had a pretty good handle on it. But the 2 things that I didn't know that he really opened my eyes on, like I said, was autosomal pheomelanin and whites. Not so much dominant and recessive white. I understood that for the most part. And I understood what you got when you bred them. But progressive white. A lot of people don't understand progressive white and the dangers of progressive white. It's not a genetic defect. It's a genetic disease is the way he explains it. Okay. When you see white in the wings, white in the tail, white coming in through the hackle, that's progressive white. When you see spangled, we call spangled, he likes to call them mottled. That's the genetic term for them. But when you see the tail starting to get really white and the wings start getting white in your spangles, and that's one of the reasons I got rid of the spangles, is because I couldn't perfect them. There was too much variation, too much in different intensities of the spangled gene itself, but then they got whiter and whiter. First year, they barely showed any spangled. After, I'd say the second and third year, they were beautiful. And in the third, fourth, or the 4th and 5th year after that, they start getting whiter and whiter to the point when they reach 6 to 8 years old, all of a sudden they were white. They were almost all white. And that's progressive white. And progressive white not only affects the plumage, which gets worse every year, and when you breed them together, 2 birds with progressive white, it really comes through in the offspring. Now, a lot of people like that. They think it's a really cool feature. It's a really attractive. And I agree. Sometimes it does seem attractive. Those white sickles coming through the tail seem very attractive. But there's an underlying problem associated with that, because it not only affects the plumage, but it affects the inside of the bird, the organs, things like that. It makes it a weaker bird overall. We talked about that quite a bit. So I don't know, we might talk 2 hours on progressive white for all I know. So it was a major topic that we covered. And I was so glad we did, because those were the 2 things I had a problem with. Do you want to say something, Nancy?
Yeah, the white in the tail or the white in the wings or wherever else that you see white, it does. It's very pleasing to the eye.
Sometimes,
and, yeah. Sometimes it is. And it can be very misleading. So I'm sure it stepped on a lot of toes. When does that one come out, that segment on the progressive white?
I'm not sure when it comes out exactly. I've got 2 more to put out of the first ones we did, okay? And then I've got, we covered a lot of things. We covered epigenetics, disease resistance, probably a half a dozen different topics. I probably have enough material for the whole year. And so what I plan to do is, plus what I still have to get out from before. And so we're looking at 1 a month Then I'm gonna have them out because I have other things I want to do too. I have other projects and other programs I'm gonna get out as well. And then there was a lot of little hidden nuggets that we talked about in between, and I'm actually gonna put those out on the public side as little segments. That's what I'm gonna do for now.
So the public, which is where we are right now, they're going to get little tidbits.
Yeah, little short segments. Mm-hmm.
Of what Kenny recorded and interviewed with Brian. But you guys, you members, are going to get the whole enchilada. You're going to get the whole thing, and it's going to be really good. You're getting it now. Kenny, didn't you just put something out today?
Two of them. Yeah.
It's very informative. And this guy is so smart. And it's one thing that Kenny said when he was doing the interview with Brian. He goes, he wasn't looking out of a book when saying, okay, let me tell you about this, and then looking at his book or anything like that. He was just right out of his mouth. He was talking about the information that he knew. And it was very impressive.
Yeah, actually. It was. Yeah, it was. That's what I noticed on New Year's Eve when we were talking. As I was sitting there listening to him, I'm like, he's not looking in a book or checking things out. He's just like Nancy said, just coming right out of his mouth. And I was like, wow, this is pretty good. This guy really knows his stuff. And I was also thinking he was doing it so well, I'm not going to have to do any editing. I was like, this is cool. He spoke so clearly and said it so well that I'm not going to have to hardly do any editing. So I was really excited about that.
This is a really good question, and I don't know if you can answer it or not. And of course, anytime that you can't answer a question, you let everybody know. Nah, I got to look up that one. I'm not sure on that one. But Dan the Man is asking, can you raise a healthy mottled breed, or is there just no way to keep them long term?
Mottled, yeah.
Yeah.
What we call spangled, he calls mottled. And yeah, there's a genetic flaw there that they just do not, first of all, a lot of times breed true, and then they change as they get older. And it was one of the reasons why I didn't like them too, is that they did that. Yeah, there's a big problem with that. If you like, he says the same thing. There is certain genetic factors that are going to either help you or hurt you, and sometimes they can be somewhat dead ends. But if you like the breed, you like what you're getting, and you're enjoying them, then breed them. We have no problem with that. But if you're trying to perfect the color, there's certain things you got to follow, and sometimes they just don't work in your favor. And when it comes to modeling, what we call spangling in the gamefowl world, there's a flaw there. There's no way to really. First of all, you can't. When I had them, I had some of the best spangles. Let me put some up here to show you.
Yeah, they were so pretty.
And this one was one of the older ones too, where you start to see the progressive white coming through. Okay, you can see the progressive white coming in through the tail. And when he was younger, he didn't have that. He had a nice black tail. Okay, and so that was the problem. So I wasn't able to get them to a point where they were even with the spangling, what we call spangling. And I wasn't able to perfect them because not only would they throw spangle, but they would throw the light red Wheaton and they would throw the dark red partridge hens too. And I would once in a while get a cock that didn't have any spangling. And then there would be different degrees of spangling throughout the yard. And I worked on these for quite a while and it just never seemed to get better. And then we talked about, bless you, I've been saying it for years. Brian was saying it the other night, is that progressive white comes through, and before you know it, they get whiter and whiter. And to me, that's even a bigger issue. If you enjoy them, keep them, but I wouldn't breed them in anything. I wouldn't breed them into your regular reds because you're going to ruin them. Okay? If you like them, just know there's a flaw there. You're going to have to deal with it. If it's an issue with you, you might have to get rid of them and start with something else. It's just the nature of the trait.
I loved them. I thought they were the most beautiful bird on earth.
I just don't have the kind of room to raise all. If they don't have a spot in my farm, and if I can't perfect them, and I'm a big perfectionist, I'm all about purity of blood, creating strains, improving strains. If I don't think I can do that, then I can't keep them. I just don't have room for that. So I did get rid of them. I quit breeding to them. Eventually, I stopped getting them because they came out of my reds. That's how I got them in the first place. I got the dark reds, and then they would also throw the light reds and the spangleds too. And I worked on them for a long time and made them, I thought I was making them into a family. I learned pretty quickly after a few years I was spinning my wheels with the spangles. And the light reds were doing well, and I was getting them better and better. But eventually they start losing the light red, going back to the dark red. And then before I knew it, I felt like I lost him. Now, Brian was saying that I could have actually just stayed with it. I could have improved him. He thinks I quit too early. And I might have. I might have.
Yeah, I remember that. I was going, oh, darn. And you were like, yeah, shoot.
Yeah.
You only have so much space. So,
yeah. And then we covered epigenetics. And he pretty much says it the way we say it. Had some interesting perspectives. And I can't wait to share that with you guys. That was really interesting because it's a major factor. You could do everything right, but when you bring birds from a different geographical area onto your farm from somewhere else, things start to happen. Histone modifications, DNA methylation, they start expressing genes or losing genes that they had before. You start seeing different intensities that you weren't seeing before. They start losing intensity or gaining intensity in some of the traits. And all you can do at that point is select them depending on their phenotype, selecting the traits you like, culling the ones you don't, and then you shape them from there. Where they'll end up, nobody knows. But if you're knowing what to select and sticking with it, that you can actually make a nice family out of them. And hold on, Nancy. I was talking to him about it, that whenever you're bringing birds from someone else's farm, especially from a different geographical area, and you bring them on your farm, expect them to change. Now, the birds you actually brought over, they're not going to change, but it's their offspring. I would expect them to change, so just expect it.
you were saying that they could lose genes, lose the intensity. What do you mean by that? By the offspring? You lose the genes in the offspring?
Yeah, so if let's say I buy birds from Frank and I bring them here, okay, because of histone modifications that work like switches, some genes are going to turn on and off. So some genes that were there are going to turn off, and I'm going to see genes that Frank never saw. Chances are, okay? And then you got the DNA methylation where they're actually working like knobs and they change the intensity of that trait. It could lessen the intensity of that particular trait or make it even more intense. So it could change there too. And then what happens is the phenotype changes, the different traits in front of you are changing. That's all you can select from. So you select the ones you like, cull the ones you don't like, and you shape the family from there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. But you really need to know where you're going, because you're the one who is choosing which to breed.
You have to have kind of an idea of what you want. If you understand the breed, you will know that, okay? But you have to understand the genetic factors, because if you don't understand the genetic factors, you're not going to be able to select them properly, and you're not going to be able to match them properly. So you could look at a bird, the phenotype of the bird, and things you like, you see things you don't like. But if you don't understand which ones are dominant, which are recessive, which are sex-linked, which are polygenic, which is a big deal, okay, which are co-dominant, which we don't see a lot of, but there are some. If you don't understand how those work, you're not going to be able to match them up properly and get the result you want, because some genes are going to cancel out others, okay, and some are going to change others. So if that's the only thing is when it comes to epigenetics and improving them, you have to know the genetic factors of the traits they're expressing.
Okay, for somebody who's just learning, where are they going to find out all of that? Where on the particular breed that they're raising? You just said a number of things that people need to know where to go further with their breed.
To learn about genetics?
Where are they going to go to learn all that?
Okay. Now, here's what I suggest. You can buy Brian's book. Okay. And it's written really well, and it's simplified very nice. But I really suggest that I'm not trying to boast the Breeders' Academy exactly, but if you saw the videos he did, okay, and how I just smacked myself. If you understood, like, all you have to do is follow along in the book with what he says in the video, and you're going to have a better understanding. And you could read the book over and over again, but you could also watch the video over and over again. And every time I listened to it, a lot of what Brian said, I already understood, had a pretty good handle on it. There were some things here that Brian enlightened me about, woke me up about, basically. And there was some things that there was a few things I was actually wrong, and he actually corrected it. I learned a lot. And every time I did the recording with him, I edited it, put it together, and then started listening to it after that even. Every time I listened to it, I understood it better. And it came clear to me every time. And then you look in the book and you're like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I understand this. It's amazing. I watch my members and they'll send me messages they'll have a question and I can tell they're really grasping it. Not only do they have a question, but you could tell that it's out of what they were listening from Brian and what they're getting out of his book. And then they ask it in a way that I don't see this anywhere else on the internet. I don't see it on social media, anywhere. They're very intelligent, very insightful questions. And it's just so fun to deal with that. And then I'm able to answer them better because I can see we're both on the same page. And every now and then I have to send them over to Brian and say, hey, go ahead and talk to Brian about this. He knows more about this. This is a specialty. Or I might even send it to Brian and say, hey, Brian, what do you think? This is a question my member has. But no, that's what I would suggest is get the books, get these books. Now, I have a whole bunch of books. I don't know if you can see it. The cabinet right behind my head here, it's the top, the first two shelves. Those are all animal and poultry breeding and genetics. That's how many books I have. Okay, including these. Okay. And so I would suggest get it inside the Breeders' Academy. You have all kinds of information inside the website. And then we have Brian's videos as well. So I have all kinds of programs and courses inside the website already.
Okay, so that works basically for American games because that's your specialty. But what about domestic breeds?
This works for domestic breeds too.
Yes, yeah, I get that. But as far as different genetic defects and I don't know, you named off a whole bunch of things that you should know.
Nancy, watch Brian's videos. He covers gamefowl and domestic chickens.
Okay.
Yeah, very well. Okay.
And those can be found inside the Breeders' Academy.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. This show was brought to you by the Breeders' Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl. As a member, we'll provide you with the roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. I urge you to check it out. You've got nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders' Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
I hope to see you there. So let's get started.
And if somebody is just starting out, let me pull this one up here. And I know we don't give any recommendations out, but he's just starting out and he's trying to get some good stock, some brood stock. Any recommendations on where to go to get good game fowl?
Okay. I don't recommend other breeders because I can't control what they sell. Even good breeders are not always going to sell you good birds. Okay. So I don't do that. But what I do suggest, again, is to go inside the Breeders' Academy and learn what a good bird is. The form and structure of the bird, the conformation, the carriage, the station, the color, everything you want to know about the bird, its overall makeup, learn that. Really understand that well. Understand what we have 88, I think I have 88 defects listed on the website. I'll bet you a lot of them you don't even know about, okay? So educate yourself on the form, function, and beauty of the bird and what represents the breed, so that when you go to someone's farm, you go there educated and you're going to select better. You're going to have a better chance coming out. Forget the names. That doesn't matter. Okay. I'm a firm believer that you can find good and bad birds on a good breeder's yard, and you can find good and bad breeders on a backyard breeder. And you could probably find some good birds and bad birds on a peddler's yard. Okay. But if you understand what you're looking for, what breed and variety, and what like if let's say I'm into gamefowl. Okay. If you're looking for a game bird, what color do you want? Do you want a red? Do you want a silver duckwing? Do you want a blue? Whatever. Understand what makes up that breed. Understand everything you can about that breed. It's all in the website, so that you're going there educated, you select the right birds. Like I said, forget the name. I look for good health and vigor. Birds that don't look sick. Now, when you go on their farm, hopefully they've got a nice, clean, tidy farm. Hopefully they're feeding them well. Chances are they're medicating. You might have to medicate them for a little while until you get birds on the ground. And you may have to medicate them, take care of them the way they do until you get going. But plan on working your way off those medications or off any of the stuff or supplements that he's giving them so that you don't need that. And that goes right in what we talked about next was disease resistance. We did a whole episode on disease resistance. And he had a really neat approach about expose. Now, I'm still wrapping my head around it because there is a danger to it, but there's a benefit too. And that is purposely exposing your birds, because your birds can't become immune or resistant to anything they haven't been exposed to. Now, I'm a firm believer. I don't medicate. I don't vaccinate. I do practice really good biosecurity in that I don't let just anybody on my yard. My birds are pretty well adapted to their area here, my farm and the birds that happen to come into my yard. If I were to put my birds on someone else's farm, depending on the disease they may not have exposure to. I've seen just about every disease come through my yard except for the biggies. I've seen coryza, I've seen CRD, pox, I've seen bronchitis. I've seen everything in my yard. And to this day, I don't have a sick chicken. I will not breed a sick chicken. I will not even breed a chicken that was sick. Okay, I cull the sick and I breed to the healthy. And that's what I suggest you do. Trying to figure out where I was going. I lost my track. I think I went off into the weeds. But he does have a really interesting approach. And I did an interview with a pigeon breeder, a well-known one his name was Frank McLaughlin. And he has the same approach. Now, he'll vaccinate for a lot of things because they're always, what they call them, one-off races. They're exposing their birds to a lot of other birds who also carry other diseases. And although he'll vaccinate, he doesn't medicate and he doesn't give antibiotics. Neither do I. I like that. So he's always exposing his birds to new diseases, and he just breeds to the healthy. He doesn't medicate them, and he only vaccinates. But he's not afraid to expose his birds to other birds. A friend of mine, Danny Feathers, who passed away a few years ago, he did the same thing with his chickens. He had no problem taking his chickens to the show, exposing them to everything, and then bring them home, putting them with his birds. And although he might have had a sick bird here and there, he didn't lose everything. And even Brian said that he had gotten his birds, I think he said, exposed and resistant to 9 different diseases, if I remember right. Hopefully I'm not wrong on that. That's the number I remember. And some of them were pretty big, like laryngotracheitis. And he got them to the point where they were resistant to those particular diseases, even Newcastle's. Now, he was He was part of a research team. And he worked with the University of Kentucky too, so he was monitored and all that. And everything was heavily watched and guarded and all that. But so he was able to expose his birds to these and make them resistant over time. Took a big chance, but that was part of his research. That's what they were actually doing. But I would at least make sure to not use medications. I don't like the vaccinations. Let them be exposed to what's in their immediate environment. Cull the sick, breed to the healthy, and in time you'll have a really healthy strain, really healthy flock, family. I haven't seen a sick chicken in years. I can't tell you the last time I had a sick chicken. I don't even worm my birds.
We also have a very strict biosecurity system in place at our house. But what about people who like to show their birds? They go to poultry shows and they show some birds. Obviously, I hope they're not taking their brood fowl. They're taking basically the worst bird on their farm is actually the best bird that's going to win the show if they're doing it properly, if they're breeding well.
You know how I did it? I won shows. I didn't bring my best birds. I had my A birds, my B birds. My A birds were my main breeders. I had my B birds, which were my backups. And then my C birds were the birds I either sold or I took to the show. Now, these were good birds. There was nothing wrong with them. They didn't have defects or anything. I culled the defects. But it was the seabirds I took to the show, and that's what I won with the show. Now, Brian says just take them to the show and get them exposed.
But okay, then what? Bring them back and incorporate them right into the flock? I don't think so.
That's what he suggests, but and I told him I had a problem with that. That's a biggie for me. That just made me go, oh shoot. I would bring them home. This is what I would do, and I have a quarantine area. So I put any birds. I haven't brought new birds. Every bird on my yard was born here, and I haven't brought new birds on my yard in years. I can't remember the last time I did. It's got to be 20, 25 years. Okay. But if I brought a new bird, or I took a bird off my farm and brought it back, it would go into the quarantine area. And I would feed and water those birds or take care of those birds last. So they would be far away from the rest of the birds. I'd leave them out there for a good 30 days, see if anything happens. And then if they're like someone else's birds, I would put a sacrificial bird with them, see if my bird gets sick or that bird gets sick, see if those two birds get each other sick. And if everything's good, then chances are I'd go ahead and implement them back into my yard. But even if a bird looks good, looks healthy, you don't know what he's carrying, because he could be carrying something very dangerous. Yeah,
Hence
it's a thought.
The 30, 30, 30.
The 30, 30, yeah, 30 yards, 30 feet, 30 yards, depending how much you have away from the other birds. 30 days quarantine, 30 days with the sacrificial bird. Then you're safe.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. Brian did it with the fact that he knew that if anything would happen, he would have to depopulate the whole yard. They were research birds. For me, I've got a family out here that's over 30 years old. I'm just not gonna take that chance. I understand where he's coming from. I understand the benefits, but I also understand he made a lot of sense, but I just couldn't. There's no way I could do that with my birds. It's an interesting thought, actually. What's that?
Yeah, Zach is saying that's what he was thinking, and he started the process I think is what he's trying to say, the process with his pigeons, because he raises, I think, racing pigeons.
Yeah. So that's what Frank does, Frank McLaughlin. He vaccinates for the diseases they usually deal with, like the big ones. One, I can't remember the name of it, but it's similar to Newcastle's. And so I know he vaccinates for that, but he doesn't medicate and he doesn't use antibiotics. I see so many people on farms that they see a storm coming and they give antibiotics to every bird on the farm. Antibiotics will not prevent disease. Understand that, first of all. And every time you're giving them antibiotics, you're weakening the birds. You're actually weakening their immune system. You're killing all the beneficial
antibodies.
Yeah, the antibodies. No, it's something else. Oh, I can't think. But this cold's kicking my butt. My mind's kind of foggy. Yeah, I can't think. And then we talked about inbreeding and the fear most have on inbreeding and the good and the bad. But you agree with me. There's more people they're too cautious about inbreeding. Inbreeding is a great tool. It's a great way to fixate the family, clean up the family, get them ready for the foundation stage. But a lot of people just avoid it at all costs. They'd rather outcross all the time. And then at the same time they're outcrossing, they're saying that they got a family or a strain, which they have neither. Once you add new blood, you've changed the family forever. Recombinate the genes, just pretty much starting over. We all know that. Okay. So we talked a little bit about inbreeding. And then there was a term he used, which I thought was really interesting. We talked about the phenotype of the bird, but he called it surface traits, the shallow side of the bird. Okay. And then how to select those surface traits and improve them. Most of your surface traits, your phenotype traits, I'm trying to remember how he said it. A lot of the surface traits are what we call monogenic traits, Mendelian type traits, dominant recessive. But there are some traits are polygenic, which we call form and function traits. When it comes to the function of the bird or the form of the bird, we're looking at conformation of body, carriage, type, station. Those tend to be polygenic. Some of the defects that we see from time to time, like crooked breastbone, squirrel tail, those tend to be polygenic. Polygenic are multi-gene traits. When you see a multi-gene trait, variation, when you see variation, you're looking at a polygenic trait. Those are all quantitative inheritance. So because they're measurable, we can, by selecting to the highest intensity or lowest intensity, depending on the trait, we can actually improve them. Something you can't. Go ahead.
For an example, with leg length.
Yeah.
People think that you can just, if you got a bird that's too tall, they think that they can breed it to a bird that's like really short stationed and get something in the middle, and it's not
Right.
That's not the way it works.
Yeah, because they're two different traits. Same thing with, let's say you have a bird with squirrel tail, and you think you can breed it to a bird with down tail. Those are separate traits that come from different breeds. Okay. You're not going to get something in the middle. You're just going to get offspring with both traits. You're going to get some that have the squirrel tail and some with the down tail. So the idea is to breed birds with in the family that are the closest to being the right type, the right tail. And then over time, you'll get there. It's funny, monogenic traits like dominant recessive, it's either you're selecting for it, you're culling it. It's as simple as that. You see it, you don't like it, you cull it. You like it, you breed to it, exaggerate it. Okay. Polygenic traits are different. You actually, like I said, select to the highest intensity, let's say, but it's not improved overnight. It's going to take many generations to get there. So when you're selecting for polygenic traits, which makes up most of the bird inside and out, you got to be patient. And if you're not willing to be patient, you're not going to be a breeder. So it takes time. But,
What is next? Yeah. I did want to say one thing, Zach, because I had it written down. We had an interview with, and you mentioned his name, Kenny, and I don't recall it, with a pigeon breeder, because Zach is raising pigeons. And if he hasn't done it yet, go inside the Breeders Academy and watch that interview with that pigeon breeder. Really insightful.
The audio version is on YouTube on the front end, but the video version is on the website. Okay.
So check that out.
Yeah. We also talked about feeding. He had a really neat way to save money and still give them quality feed. So I'm anxious to get that on. I might even put that on the front end. That was one of those small tidbits that the big ones was epigenetics, disease resistance. There was quite a few of them. All about whites, autosomal female. And there was about 6 major topics that we covered. But like I said, there was a handful of tidbits here that were probably 15, 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes. Some of those are going to go on the front end.
See, that's a pretty good one. I'd like to save that secret for our members.
No, I think I'm all about the breeding part of it. I have no problem sharing that feeding part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. And then the last part, which I think we talked for about an hour and a half, was answering members' questions. Before we got started, I had a lot of my listeners, followers, and members send me questions for Brian to ask. So we spent the last hour and a half talking about those, answering those questions for the members. Go on the website. That's all. Matter of fact, the one we did on the 1st is already on the website, ready for you guys to check out. The one we did 6 months ago, I'm still editing, and that should be out like really soon. Hopefully in a week or so. That should be out. Maybe in a few days. So I started working on it today, matter of fact.
He's been editing like crazy.
Yeah. And then there's a lot more. So get your questions in, and we'll answer questions today. And I just want to keep reminding my members that whenever we do a show, now for a while they'll be on the front end on YouTube, but eventually they'll be on the back end. Whether they're on the front end or the back end, I suggest my members check them out on the website, because along with that video is all the show notes, all the information that goes with it, which will enhance the video quite a bit. So I just want to let you guys know to make sure you check these videos out. I know it's convenient to watch them on the front end sometimes without having to go on the website, but there is a benefit to watching them on the website itself. Okay. Go ahead.
Somebody was asking, here we go. Raider was asking, are we still doing the members roundtable? How's that going?
Yeah, we're just taking a break. Like today, Frank wasn't able to make it. And I really would like him to be part of the roundtable. That's what the roundtable basically is. It's not just me, okay? And it's more of a conversation between me, Nancy, and Frank, and then the questions you guys ask. We're trying to get back in the groove, but it's something we're going to start up here pretty soon, hopefully.
Okay.
I do want to say
Go
this. Ahead. Make sure you join the newsletter. I hope you join the Breeders Academy real soon, but if you decide you're going to wait a little while, at least go to the free site and subscribe for the newsletter. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com. You're going to get a lot of free information, some free ebooks, some downloadable PDFs. again, just go to, man, my mouth is really dry, www.breedersacademy.com. And then I want to welcome a lot of the new members. It was funny. We got a lot of new members on Christmas Day. Did I tell you that, Nancy? I don't even know if I told you.
No, but look at this.
What's that?
That showed up in our starred area.
Oh, that's for the YouTube members.
All right, cool. Oh, right then.
And
look at this.
Wait a minute, Nancy. Go back to the other one.
Oh, go back to the other one. Okay.
Now, what's his name? I think it's Chaz. He sent me an email. He wants to rejoin here pretty soon. And I'm going to send him the information for that. Chaz, I'm just telling you right now that all the videos that are on that YouTube members is in the website. So once you get in there, you might want to go ahead and cancel the YouTube members because all that stuff's on the website. That's for those who don't want to join the website but still want the videos, all the backlog of videos. But I do want to welcome our new members, and we had a lot of new returning members like Chaz coming back, which I really appreciate. And,
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Want to get that off the screen for a second?
Yes. Let me.
You want to wait? Do you want to show me one more? You said you had one more.
Yes, I wanted to. Why don't you get that off so we can?
Oh, go ahead. You put over it.
Okay, put it over it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Oh. We have got a question for you here. If you cross two pure families to make a 50-50 cross, will you get the same results by breeding the 50-50 rooster to the 50-50 pullets?
So he's basically breeding the hybrids together. Is that what he's saying? That's what I'm taking.
Cross two pure families. So he has two pure families and then he crosses them together. Yeah. What's going to happen there?
He's going to get hybrid vigor. That's what he's going to get. Okay. Now, the breeding after that is going to be very unpredictable. You're going to get big birds, small birds. They're going to be all over the board. And the idea is to select the best birds from that, and you start creating your family. And we have a program inside the Breeders Academy called the Founders Program, which would show you how to do that. Because a lot of the birds that we use as seed fowl, which we call our Adam and Eve, are rarely related. Okay, so we're usually starting families from birds that are unrelated. A lot of times they're hybrids already. They might even be what we call mongrels because they have a lot of different bloodlines in them. And the Founders Program shows you how to create a family from birds like that. And the better the birds are, the better they represent their breed, the faster it's going to be, the easier it's going to be. The more issues they have, the more, if they have any defects, they have so many contrasting characteristics between the two birds, it's going to take a little bit longer. Now, what he's also talking about is when you have two pure families, you breed them together to produce hybrids. It's called recombinant reciprocal selection. It's a very common method for keeping your two families pure, holding on to the integrity of those families, but selling or using the birds that they produce. It's a very common method, but the problem is when you go to breed those. Because like I said, the results are going to be unpredictable. They're going to be all over the place. You're not going to know what you're going to get exactly. And you just got to know if you're going to create a family from the offspring from that, you got to know what to do. And like I said, the Founders Program will show you exactly what to do there. But I appreciate what is that? Is that Super Chats? Is that what that is?
I think that's Super Chats, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't get too many of those on this show. Yeah, I almost forget we have that
was
feature.
Kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
But if if his end goal is just to get to that hybrid vigor for a bird to take to the poultry show, doing it from two pure lines is the best way to go, correct?
If he's looking for hybrids, if he's looking for offspring that are bigger, better, faster, stronger, smarter, and have all the traits that excel their parents, then yeah, that's what you want to do. The purer the families are, the more prepotent they are, the better hybrid vigor they're going to produce. But if you want to create a family from that, just know you're going to see variation. You're going to see unpredictability, and you just got to know which birds to select from that to continue with, and then how to do it, because there's a certain process you got to follow.
Right. And don't freak out when you get all the variety there. That is supposed to happen. That's supposed to happen.
Yeah. Right. So, and you won't see progress till the third or fourth generation, the kind of progress you're looking for too. But we're going to skip all this for now. So just go ahead and get the questions, see if there's any questions, because this show is going to be based on questions today.
All right, here we go. Kenny, what about buying 50 to 75 straight run from a hatchery, keeping only the best stag and pullets?
There's something to be said about bringing birds from hatcheries, because they're, how do I want to say this? They're not as pure or representative of the breed as you would think, but they're very strong birds sometimes because of it. Okay. And then sometimes you can go to an established breeder who has a pure family, and they can look the part, look beautiful, but they're weak as hell because they were too inbred. There is such thing as being too. I'm a big firm believer of inbreeding. I think it's a great tool. I don't think you can create a strain or improve a strain without some inbreeding. But when you do it too much, it actually can be a problem. And although it takes a while to reach inbreeding depression, some breeders maybe go a little overboard and may reach inbreeding depression. But when it comes to hatchery birds, the problem is a lot of times they don't select very well. They don't select the breeders very well, in that a lot of those birds aren't selectively bred. They're not culled for sickness, or not culled for defects, or culled for proper type, conformation, things like that. Basically, they get the birds from the main breeders. They get all the eggs they can from them, and then before they depopulate, the last hatch of the year is for them. They depopulate the older stock, repopulate with the young stock, and again, they don't do the proper selection. Although the hatcheries have a purpose, they get people birds that just want a handful of pretty birds in their yard to give them eggs and a little bit of meat here and there. They do serve a purpose for someone who wants to get birds that they can actually create a family from, purify, make a strain, and carry on for many years. That could be problematic. Now, I can only tell you my experience is we've tried that once where I wanted some well summers and couldn't really find anybody who had them around here. And I started making some phone calls, people I knew, and they kept referring me to two different breeders. One was on the East Coast, one was on the West Coast. And so I gave the one on the East Coast a call. I said, hey, I hear you have well summers. Do you have any for sale? Yeah, we sell birds. Can you tell me about them? And so she told me about them. Everything sounded good. And then I asked her a question that I would always ask a breeder. If they understand their birds, they should know this answer and they shouldn't have any problem with it. What are your common defects? And she said, I don't have a lot of problems, but what I do have is white in the wings, progressive white. Okay. And I says, oh, okay. And otherwise they were good. And I says, okay, maybe I'll give you a call back. Let me go. I'll let you know. So I called the person on the West Coast and asked her the same question. And everything was sounding really good. I asked her the same question. What are your common defects? She said, I get white in the wings. I'm like, is this a problem with the breed? Is this a common defect that we're going to see throughout the breed? And she goes, no, I don't know about that, but I borrowed a cock from a friend of mine to improve egg color, and now I got white in the wings. And it happened to be the same breeder I was talking about on the East Coast. So they kept sharing the same defect, which ended up being progressive white, which is very damaging, hard to get rid of. Is it possible? Yes, but very difficult. You got to be very persistent, patient, but you have to be very selective. You're going to cull a lot of birds. So I was like, okay, that doesn't sound good. So I decided to go ahead and take my chance. And I went and got hatchery birds. And actually everything was going good for a while. They were looking good through some selection. I was improving on them. I was getting better body. The color was coming out real nice. They were representing their breed real nice. And all of a sudden, I don't remember what year it was, but I started noticing the cocks were looking awesome, but the hens were losing that stippling, that partridge stippling color. They were getting foxy all over the body. And I didn't know what to do about it. Nothing. I wasn't able to select my way out of it. Okay. And that wasn't going to work for me because that's not what I wanted them for. I wanted them for meat and eggs for the family. Yes. And maybe I should have kept them for that. But because I couldn't perfect them, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. So I ended up getting rid of them. And then I met a friend of mine who, his name is Matt Hemmer, who actually raised them. And I actually didn't meet him until after I got rid of my birds because I was doing a seminar in Wilmot, Ohio, I think it was. And he happened to be one of the students there, and him and I got to talking. And he was a well summer breeder, and he was telling me that his experience is they needed to be double mated, that you had to have a cock that had a little red in the breast that would give you the proper stippling in the hens, and then the hens would give you the proper cock or something like that. So they had to be double mated. And I was like, no, that wasn't going to work for me because I even thought about buying them from him. So I didn't like that. But you could see that I thought I was going in a good direction. I thought I was improving them, even being from hatcheries, but then they went sideways really quick. And I hear that all the time where sometimes they look really good. They have a lot of promise, but after a few years of breeding them, they go off the wall. They just fall off. They hit a wall, I guess you could say. And I haven't seen too many people that are actually able to maintain or improve or create a family from birds from the hatcheries. My suggestion is learn your breed, learn what represents a breed, what makes up the breed. Do your best to find breeders who raise them, who know what they're doing, and create not only birds that represent their breed that are really healthy, and then have a little money in the bank because they're going to probably cost you something, and then go from there. I would not buy birds from multiple breeders and bring them in. I think you're asking for trouble. So I wouldn't do
Like
that.
a hen from one and a rooster from another.
Or a trio from one, a trio from the other, and bring them in and cross them together, and thinking that would not be the way I'd go. I'd get them from one breeder that you respect and knows who what they're talking about. And that way, hopefully you can go back to them for advice, because they should know their breed. They should know their birds. They should be able to tell you what you need to do to keep them going and improve them. For me, I would stay away from birds that need to be double mated, because what that means is you have a family that you have a cox line, a stag line, you have a hen line, and a pullet line. And you got to breed certain colors together to reach other colors, to actually achieve other colors. It's a very common practice when it comes to the domestic world with many breeds. It's just not for me. I want to be able to put two birds together and know that I'm going to be able to reproduce them, that the producers like, and that I'm going to be able to improve them there without monkeying around with the different colors. I want a family that repeats themselves. So that's what I would look for.
And you're not talking about repeats themselves right away, but within time repeats themselves. It's a duplication.
If I'm buying birds from another breeder that has an established family and he knows what he's doing, they should be able to repeat themselves. Would I run them through a program like the Founders Program? I probably would, because it would clean them up even more and make them better. And I think if you do it right and you do the Founders Program, chances are they can probably be better than his birds. Okay.
Exactly. So Zach is saying, Kenny, this episode is what has gotten me hung up on doing it that way, meaning, okay, so he's saying, now I have a sound idea. I just want a pair from one place. So that's good.
Yeah.
And so then he's saying here, he's asking what his thoughts are. He's thinking about doing BB Reds or Wheaton.
Okay.
Do you think that's a pretty good one to start with?
Oh, yeah.
That wouldn't be too difficult, right?
Especially the black-breasted reds, because except for brown, when you look at the order of dominance, except for brown, duckwing red is the most recessive you're going to get. There's nothing more recessive than a single comb red with green legs. So if you want to find a family that you're not going to have a lot of surprises, that you're going to be able to, they're going to be more or less predictable with maybe a little fine tuning through the generations, then that's the way to go. Light red, Wheaton, a little tougher. They're a little harder. Good birds are hard to find because getting the proper light red color can be tough. Like when you see like an orange and it goes to yellow, that's dilute, and that's going to be tough to fix. So you want an even orange color going down. There's different variations, different types of Wheaton. I'd try to find birds from the same breeder. Hopefully they're reproducing themselves.
So are you saying BB Reds would be a little bit easier
I
than
think so.
a Wheaton?
Yeah, okay. I do. I've had better luck with them.
Then again, too, it has to be pleasing to the eye. It has to be something that you want to breed, because you're going to spend a lot of time with your birds, and it's hard work. And it's a lot of years that you're going to be spending on these birds. So which is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. He made a comment that he's thinking about both BB Reds and Wheatons. Now, that's fine. But what I wouldn't do is cross them together. I wouldn't do that. I'd keep them separate. Do everything you can to keep them separate.
Okay. He said or BB Reds or Wheatons.
Dark reds would be easier than Wheatons.
But not the brown.
Brown we see this mostly in domestic breeds. I was just talking about the order of dominance. A lot of times we think that the duckwing red is the most recessive. Actually, brown is more recessive than that even. But I was just saying because for us American gamefowl breeders, there's nothing more recessive than a straight comb red with green legs. You can't go wrong. That's what I did. Now my birds have pea comb, what we call, it's a rudimentary type pea comb. It's not really a true pea comb, but they do breed. It does act like a dominant trait, and I don't get the recessive, although I know mine aren't pure for, if I breed them to a single comb or a straight comb, I will get some. But I never see them. Yeah.
His only issue is he's not really fond of solid colors.
If he's talking about, is he talking about a domestic chicken or is he talking about gamefowl? Because the duckwing color is pretty attractive. Let me show you. I think they're great. Where is that picture? Okay, let's do it this way. This might work. Okay. So this was my Adam and Eve, like 30 some odd years ago. Okay. I got them from Colonel Givens. Had a lot of issues, a lot of faults, not great type, not great conformation. The hen's color was awful. The cock's color was iffy, had some serious issues. But over time, without adding any outside blood, looking for variations that worked in my favor, today, this is what they look like. I never added outside blood to get there. I did it through whatever it showed me. I just bred to the highest intensity, to the favorable genes, culled the ones I didn't like, and this is where they're at now. And I think they're beautiful birds.
The other one, it looks more like a light red. Am I wrong?
Which one?
What you started with? The one you started with. The picture of the one you started with.
No. They're a dark red. The hen's a partridge color, but you see the white color in the breast, Nancy? Okay. That was the issue. That was actually giving me those light reds and the different variations in the color in the cocks. Once I got the hens, like you see in the left here, more mahogany in the breasts, culled out the ones with the lighter breasts, I started getting darker cocks, and now it's a more sustainable color. I don't get very many surprises, if any, ever.
All right, so let me ask you this. If you stayed with the lighter breast in the hen and kept with the lighter... now here, I'm showing my not knowing the words for things. Is it the hackle feathers that are on the neck?
Yeah.
Notice how his neck, in the previous picture, his neck was a lot lighter. Is that considered a light red?
I'm trying to find a picture. Why can't I find it? I was showing Brian it the other day.
My point is, I think those are beautiful.
Okay, like the ones on the left.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I think the hen's pretty good. She's got the wheaten color. She's got she don't have a lot of warmth in her breasts. That's going to give you the light red too. But you see the cock, you see how the hackle goes from orange to yellow. That's not good.
But that's so pretty.
It's not good. That's not what you want. Okay. And then
even for a light red, that's not good.
You can't sustain it, Nancy. It's gonna, it's not good. That's not what you want if you're trying to perfect the color.
All right. So if you're trying to perfect the color of a light red, what do you use?
That depends. I need to see the birds he has available.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But okay, let me ask you this. Don't you have people are gonna laugh. Don't you live with this guy? Don't you ever go out in the backyard? Don't you have light reds? You don't have any light reds?
I do have some. I actually have some right now. Yeah.
Okay. With that being said, what color hen do you use to get your light reds?
Okay, let me tell you why I got them. I haven't had light reds pop up in a long time. Okay. And I got 3 light red cocks. But I have 1 wheaten hen, but I don't like her conformation, so I probably won't be breeding her. But I have, out of the 3 light reds, I have 2 that actually look pretty good. So I have an issue. So what I'm going to have to do, because I don't like the wheaten hen that came out of that, is I'm going to have to look at my partridge hens and look at the hackle feathers and pick the ones with the most dilute in the hackle. So I've got some that are very mahogany type, and then I got some that are a yellowish color in the hackle. Usually I cull those out. I'm going to actually have to use one of those to breed to those light red cocks. And hopefully I'll get the Wheaton pullets from that. And then I can go from there. And then from there, pick the best hens and the best cocks to have the best color after that. But yeah, I'm going to have to go away from the Wheaton hen because their conformation is just not that great. So where's that one? I got to organize. This is terrible. Okay, so, nope, that's not it. Okay, so if you see these hens up on the right corner, see how dark red those hackles are?
Yes.
I wish I had one. Let me see. The hen on the left top, she has a little yellowish dilute in her hackle. See that? It's not a lot, but there is some there. I have actually some hens that are partridge that have even more dilute than that I could actually breed to that light red cock that might produce the light reds that I want. They'll get me started. So that's where I'm at with that. Because I wasn't going to keep the light red going, but Brian says I just quit too early. He thought I could have kept them going.
I like those better than the dark.
Some do. Some people do.
Yeah.
Now, where most people fail is we were talking about the progressive white. Now, a lot of people like the light reds because they want the progressive white. Here's a good example of it. Now, these are birds I got years ago from, I don't have them anymore, but these are birds I got from Bruce Barnett, the sweaters he had. Now, you can see, if you look closely, you can see a little white in the hen's feathers, like in her wing and a little bit up near her wing bow, okay? And then in the cock, you're going to see a little bit of white in the wing, and then you'll see, obviously, the white streamers in the tail. That's progressive white. Now, the more you breed to that, the worse it gets, and then it gets out of control. And it doesn't represent its breed very well. But a lot of people like that, but they're liking it for the wrong reason. It's actually a detriment to the family. Over time, the whole family just get whiter, okay? And it affects not only the plumage, but also affects the inside of the bird, makes the bird weaker inside and out. Now, a lot of people, they start getting really white, getting out of control, so then they outcross. They lost the family. Now they no longer are the family. But by outcrossing to darker birds, they were able to control the amount of white that was in them for a little while. So every time it gets out of hand, they bring in new birds. They cross them again. It controls them a little bit, but they don't really have a family. They're not creating anything. They're just outcrossing. They just got, like we call, mongrels.
They're just raising chickens.
Yeah, you're just raising chickens.
Yeah.
Two pure families create hybridization. Multiple families within a bloodline is mongrelization. People don't like that, but that's what it is. Okay, so if you're always outcrossing or crossing birds you think you're improving something, you're not. You're only hiding the mistakes. They're still there. Okay.
Okay, so Christopher's asking, hey, Kenny, at which phase did you get your wings dropped to where you wanted them? I'm on day 4. Remember, I'm assuming he's talking about he's on day 4
just
of
joined.
membership.
Yeah.
Probably should read more before asking, but what do you say?
Is he talking about how they're holding their wings? Because that's a polygenic trait, and he's going to need to select he needs to look at all the birds he has, and he needs to select the 2 best birds that are holding their wings the best. Now, this is going to take multiple generations. Could take 3 or 4, maybe more, okay, depending on how good they are right now. So pick the 2 best birds he has that have the best wings, and then breed them. Look at the offspring. Pick the 2 that have the best wings, and go from there. Little by little, you'll get there. That's the only problem with polygenics. Polygenics is really cool in that it's like squirrel tail. It doesn't mean you have to kill the whole family because they have squirrel tail. You can actually improve it little by little over time. It's not going to be fixed by adding new blood. It actually screws them up even more. If you have a trait, you select your way through it. Okay, it could take multiple generations. We're talking about a monogenic trait, a recessive trait, and it's a defect, you got to cull it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not something you can fix. You just got to cull it. Otherwise, it will destroy the family. So that's the neat thing about polygenics, but the bummer too that it takes time, but it can be fixed. That's the neat thing about it. And also understand this. A lot of what's in the cock a lot of it can be fixed through the hens. If you're trying to fix the wing, a lot of times selecting the right hen will get you there faster. Make sure to put more time in selecting your hen properly. You want to select the right cock, but that hen makes such a difference. She's so important.
Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, this is one that's going to rock your world. How difficult would it be to remove the blue gene from a family?
My personal opinion, I've never seen anybody put blue in a family and be able to get it out. Anything blue touches, like anything that has black and blue touches, it turns it to blue. And I just don't think you're going to be able to get it out.
Not even Brian says, what does Brian say about
I don't
that?
think.
Did you guys talk about it?
Yeah, that'd be a good question. I don't know if I asked him that or not, or if we talked about it. I'm pretty sure that I'll ask him. Maybe I'll add that to my list when I talk to him, because my experience is that anything it touches, it turns to blue, and it's hard to get rid of.
Because there's a lot of people out there that, want to know the answer to that, or how to perfect the blue in their families.
No, he's not trying to perfect the blue. He wants to get the blue out.
No, I understand that. But there are some people that, hey, I've got blue in it, but I'd like it to be more pronounced, things like that. What do I do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Selection. He used to say to me, he was my mentor, if you want to learn about genetics, breed blues in your family, and you'll learn a lot about genetics. It wasn't that you were going to learn how to do it exactly. It was going to show you how detrimental it actually was, how much damage it was going to do. Yeah. And I learned that the hard way, because I did have a family, and one dose of blue, and man, that family was blue from then on. I could not do anything about it. If I see blue in both the birds, I'm going to get blue. Yeah. And it's funny, the hens, it's like they'll be wheat in color, but you'll see the slightest shade of blue. You almost have to look for it. It's so subtle, but that hen will produce blues, man. I'm telling you. Yep.
I like blues.
Blues are cool. I like blues.
I do. I just think they're so pretty. But
And
you're right.
Matter of fact, that's
difficult.
Nancy. Wait a minute. Matter of fact, that's what we talked about too on the first. We talked about blues too.
All right. So Melissa is asking, hey, Melissa, hope you're staying warm over there. Is it possible to get a true pea comb in gamefowl?
Yeah, but you'd have to breed it in. That's the problem. It's not just gonna pop up out of the birds you already have if it's not already there. You'd have to find birds that are carrying a true pea comb and breed it in, and then select towards it, selecting the straight comb or whatever is there out. So it is possible, but I wouldn't do it to your main line. And Melissa knows all this. She's one of our members. You wouldn't do it to your main line, your main foundation, but you would do it on a subline and work there. And it will take time. And I always say that if you look at the way the Punnett square is put together, and now, and it would even be better if you could find one that's homozygous for pea comb too. That would even be a lot better. But
Homozygous meaning what?
It's pure. Has two copies of the pea comb trait, the pea comb gene, actually the pea comb allele. Okay. But if you look at the way the Punnett square is set up, is that you have a homozygous pea comb, 25% of the offspring are going to be homozygous for pea comb. Got 25% that are going to be homozygous for straight comb, single comb. And then you've got 50% that are going to be heterozygous for pea comb. So the idea is to find the ones that are expressed in the true pea comb and test them. Breed them to a straight comb and see if they only produce the pea comb. And then if they do, then you know they're pure for pea comb. And then try to breed them to another one that's pure for pea comb, and then you're good from then on.
No straight comb will come in after that.
I mean, if you did 100, which is a lot. I mean, if you do just 10 chicks, that's not a very good sample. But if you did 100 chicks, and I know this is the hard part, a lot of people don't want to test them because we're talking about numbers here. But if you do a lot of chicks, chances are, if they don't produce a pea comb, they're probably not, there's no straight comb there. Chances are. If one shows up down the road, then thought they were pure, but they weren't. But I'm pretty good with the idea that if you produce a good number of chicks and you don't see that recessive trait pop up, then you're probably good.
And you're probably good to go. Okay.
Yeah. But she might have to bring it in to get it. Yeah.
Okay. Is that good for you, Melissa? Let us know. Okay. Joseph was asking if the lavenders are a scheme of blue.
Okay.
Is that completely different?
The domestic chicken breeders like to call lavender blue. And Brian and I talked about that quite a bit because it's so funny. It's it's the wrong way to describe it, okay? Lavender is a recessive gene that's not blue. Like when I first met Brian, him and I were talking blue, and I kept saying self-blue because us in the gamefowl
That's
look
what
at
we
a
say.
bird that's all blue, we call it self-blue. But that's what they call lavender in the domestic chicken world. What happened? Am I losing you, Nancy?
Ooh, I don't know. We popped out for a second.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we both popped out. That's weird.
We did.
Yeah. We having internet problems? That's weird. Yeah, so him and I went back and forth because he's used to the domestic chicken people calling self-blues lavender when to us they're just an all-blue bird. Okay. But a blue bird is actually blue on black, which is incomplete dominant. Whereas lavender is actually a recessive gene. So completely different birds, completely different color, not related in any way. Does that answer his question? I'm not really sure what the question was.
Yeah, he was saying exactly, Kenny. So I wanted to help put that to rest because a lot of people are thinking it's one and the same, and it's actually not. It's two different colors.
They have the Andalusians, right? Which is blue. So you would think that would settle their confusion right there, meaning if you see a lavender, there's no way to mix a lavender up with a blue. They're completely different.
Yeah.
So I don't know why
darker.
they got into that problem where they're thinking that lavenders are blue and or why they call them blue or self-blue. But they're completely different genetics, completely.
I'm wondering if this is something that you talked to Brian about, or is this something that we should ask him? How to perfect the golden color in a buff Orpington.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he did talk about that quite a bit. Yeah. So I would listen to the video.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that will be in a further episode. It'll be in an episode coming up.
I don't know if that will be on the front end or back end, actually.
Okay.
Now, if it's part of the Q&A, then it's a good chance it's going to be on the front end soon. If it's part of the episodes, the other episodes we did, then it'll be on the back end. Now, what I may do is I do have certain segments that will be on the front end right away. As far as the other episodes, epigenetics, resistance to disease, autosomal melanin, progressive white, and some of the other ones we did, what I may do is pull segments off them and then put those in the front end, but the whole video, the whole lesson will be on the website.
And it's better to listen to the whole lesson because taking little chunks, you're only getting little bits and pieces of it. But if you're able to listen to the whole lesson, it probably will make more sense for everybody. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to get more from the whole show. Definitely. Brian's awesome. The guy knows his stuff, man.
Oh, God, he's so great.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got one more here we're going to discuss, and then let me make sure. Yeah, that's going to be it for us.
Okay.
From Christopher, he's asking, what is the correct prop toe? The literature says in line with the middle toe, the drawing foot of the cock shows the toe in line with the spur. Description sounds directly behind the shank center pad.
Okay.
What would you say?
The prop toe should be flat on the ground and in line with the front center toe. That's a proper prop toe.
Okay, that was quick.
Yeah.
Okay, because that was so quick, let's just do one more because it just showed up. John and Emma.
I mean,
and
wait a minute.
asking.
I'm glad he asked that because a lot of people don't understand that. Now, prop toe, you have duck toe where it lays alongside the foot. Okay. But there's another type of toe where like he said, it comes out where the spur is. And that's not prop toe and that's not a proper toe. But what's happening there is that toe is actually coming out in a different place of the foot. Now, that can be improved through selection. But the idea is to get the toe in line with the front center toe and flat on the ground and not up on the leg so the toe is hanging down or off the side of the leg. Just because it's coming off the side of the leg doesn't mean it's duck toe, though. It just means it's coming off in a different direction.
Do we have any pictures of that?
On the website.
On the website, we do.
Yeah.
Okay, so Christopher, go there if you're a member, and
Yeah, he
you will
is.
be
He
able to
just joined.
see the proper photo. Yeah. And where would he find that inside the website?
Under
What page?
the defects and disqualification course.
Okay, so they'll show what a proper prop toe is.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah.
All right. So that's good for you, Christopher. And thanks for joining us. All right. So John and Emma, they're asking, I have a BB red rooster that's dark and a dark sister as well as a lighter sister, a light sister. Could I use both sisters to get different directions with the colors, to go in different directions?
My biggest question is, what does that light sister look like? Are we talking about like a partridge with more of a buff color in the breast, or are we talking about actually a Wheaton? I would keep the dark with the darks and the light with the light. If you mix the darks with the light, you're just going to confuse the offspring, and you're going to get what we call a dirty red. So it's better to stay dark to dark, light to light.
Okay, so if they do not have a light for that sister,
then I wouldn't breed her. She's out.
Okay,
Yeah.
she's out.
And again, my question is, what does he mean by lighter? Is the dark sister like a deep red mahogany with proper stippling, and the light one is like a lighter stippling with white in the breast? Or is she a completely different bird, like a Wheaton?
Partridge with a really light shaw.
Okay, I wouldn't breed her.
Okay.
Okay. Now, here's a caveat, though.
Uh-oh.
As important as color is, type and conformation is even more important. Yeah. So, if I had two hens, one had the proper color, but the other one had proper conformation of body, then I would say, okay, that conformation is that important, especially when it's coming from the hen. So I'd look at the cock and see where his flaws are. Can he make up for the color of the hen? And can I fix it down the road? Because I will not sacrifice type and conformation for color. Color can always be fixed later. That's the nice thing about color. Although type and conformation is a polygenic trait that takes a while to fix. If you understand what you're selecting for, you'll get there. Color can be fixed anytime. That's the nice thing about color. It's the easiest to fix out of all the traits. But if you have good conformation of both of them, I would not add that hen to the mix. It's just going to mess them up.
Okay, so there you go. All right, guys, before we head on out, want to make sure that if you like what you saw here tonight, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the show. That helps with the algorithms, and share often.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. Appreciate it. Say bye.
Have a good night, everybody. Good weekend. Bye.
Okay, thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you again for joining us on the Bred to Perfection podcast show. This show was brought to you by the Breeders Academy, where by becoming a member, you can increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and take you and your fowl to the next level.
We can also show you how to create a strain from hybrid crosses or mongrel flocks, and help you to create, maintain, and improve your present strains. We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel anytime.
To join us at the Breeders Academy membership website, go to www.breedersacademy.com.
Best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
While you're checking out the Breeders Academy, make sure to sign up for our newsletter, The Breeders Bulletin. We provide a lot of free bonus materials and some great information that will take you and your fowl to the next level. Well, that's it for now.
We hope you join us next time for another episode of Bred to Perfection. We'll see you later.
Bye. Welcome to the after show. This is the part of the show that doesn't exist. What happens in the after show stays in the after show. If you've mentioned to your friends about the after show, which happens from time to time, no worries. Just tell them not to let out our little secret area of the show. Enjoy!
If you're not willing to cold, you're not a breeder.
That's true.
Okay. But if you compare the inbreeding you did in the beginning of the program versus at the end of the program, or further into it, when the family is established and predictable and repeatable, and you do the inbreeding then, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that big variation. You're not going to get you've already weeded out those deleterious genes, so you're not going to see those being expressed in the offspring. It's amazing what you get when you do the inbreeding later down the road. It's an option that you have as a breeder to tighten them up just a little bit more. Like I said, I have no problem tightening up the bloodline if I'm not dealing with the deleterious genes. And there's ways to find out what's there. Chickens, we test breed. We cull the ones that are expressed, go on with the ones that are not. Eventually, over time, you'll see that trait less and less to the point you don't see it anymore. Dogs, if I was breeding dogs, I'd test them. I'd get that DNA test every time. Match up my female with my male. And if I'm not seeing any problems, I'd breed them. And chances are you're not going to see anything.
I wish we had that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would love that. Man, that'd be so nice.
Every time I hear people using the COR and the COI to determine their breeding program or determine the animals that they're using for that breeding program, I'm like, wow, you don't know what you're doing. But that's just not how it works. You're either not inbreeding or you're not inbreeding properly. I want them inbred. I want them homozygous. I want to see homozygosity. I want them as pure as they can be. I want them to share all the same traits.
Without that, just what you said, without that, you don't have a true family.
You don't have a family.
You
know
can't
what I mean?
have a family. And this is what gets me, though. And I've seen over the years, I've seen it many times. And it's not been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. It's been hundreds of people that I've heard it come from their mouth over the years. And they're saying there's people out there that says they've maintained families 30 and 40 years and it can't be done. I've never been able to do it. And the thing about it is, knowing how to do it, it can be done. Not knowing how to do it, it's impossible. But it can be done. I can prove. I've got breeding books that goes back that I can prove what we teach. Okay, plain and simple as far as the Founders Program goes. But some people think it's impossible just because they don't know the process or the knowledge of that. But going back on that, you was talking about a while ago, we was talking about just taking birds that hadn't been cleaned up and breeding them. And people get scared to death. They see all that stuff that they think inbreeding causes. And we know that it's not inbreeding that causes it. It's caused by using inbreeding, but inbreeding didn't create it. It just exposed it.
Yeah.
But that right there, they think when you inbreed, if every one of them isn't perfect, it didn't work. And it doesn't work that way in the beginning.
A lot of people want to blame inbreeding on the size and weight of the bird, changes in the bird, color of the bird, whatever. They want to blame all kinds of things. And size is one of them. Oh, the birds are getting smaller. I'm telling you, that wasn't inbreeding. That was your selection.
Or bigger.
You just weren't.
Yeah.
Or they getting bigger.
bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that's a problem, but what I hear most of the time is, oh, my family's getting smaller. I'm losing them. It wasn't the inbreeding that did it. And chances are you weren't doing that much inbreeding in the first place. But inbreeding is such a great tool. It's all the things that I think are a benefit. Everybody tries to look at it as detrimental. You're fixing traits, fixation of traits. I want to fixate those traits. I want to repeat those traits. Okay, I'm locking in those genes. I want to if they're genes, I want to lock them in. I want to do everything I can to preserve that gene. Yes, especially in the beginning of the program, that inbreeding is going to expose not only the good ones, but it's going to, Frank was saying earlier, it's going to expose the bad ones. If you are enjoying the show and would like to learn more, I encourage you to join me at the Breeders Academy. By becoming a member, I can help you to achieve the competitive advantage.